Hi, this is MXUX. It's been about a year since the going concern warning from Lordstown Motors. Whole new company. Going to go over it. These are the parsed comments from Hightower on the Q2 call. Okay, so this is MXUX. We're going to do this call summary. I'm going to parse through Hightower's comments. Guys, I would advise you to take a look at this PDF and read over this information. There's so much stuff here. It's really breathtakingly exciting, and especially keeping in mind the whole going concern notice being just a year ago. And I'm just going to start this by saying there's been some YouTubers commenting about how Lordstown has, they were supposed to start production, then they stopped, and then they got out of stock, and they're always balking. They're not starting production. Okay, I just want to clear that up from my point of view, from the research I have done on this company, and I've done a ton of it. After the going concern notice, there was an interim period. Niavaji was brought on. Hightower was brought on. Here is what happened. These are two high-profile individuals with big careers, and they came in, and this is my opinion. They said, if we're going to attach our name to a vehicle, we're going to take a look at that vehicle from the ground up, and we're going to check everything, and we're going to re-engineer it to our satisfaction. This is what happened. The Endurance Point 1 was done, ready for production. These guys came in, said, we're staking our reputation on it. We're going to go from the frame up, and we're going to go through every component of this build, and we're going to check it, and we're going to, create it in our likeness, which is what they did. What we have now is a new Endurance. It's the Endurance Point 2. We haven't got the full specs. There's been no formal presentation of the specs. But one difference that I have noticed, and I believe I am correct on this, I have 51% confidence. The old Endurance had a 554 safety rating. The new Endurance has a 555 safety rating. That is a 5-star for rollover protection. So that would explain the added weight, so on and so forth. Hightower has added many kind of luxury items to the driver experience at the level of a Lariat F-150 trim, I would say, among other things. Also, I'm sure Niavaji and Hightower both have taken a look at the charging system, the battery system, and so forth. Just, we need a strong technical launch here, and what we have is, I think, a number one product. They stopped the presses and redid everything, and these are two guys that know the automotive industry, and Hightower has been working with Lordstown as a consultant prior to becoming the CEO of both Lordstown and the MED project. He knows BEVs, so guys, the Porsche Taycan is having battery fires. The That's the Volkswagen Group. So, they fudged the EPA numbers. You got the Kia and, other, let's just say the Korean brands, same thing. You've got the Bolt, same thing. LG batteries seem to be indicated as a central point of this. Anyway, personally, I am glad they stopped production. Not to say that the Endurance Point 1 was a bad vehicle, but to have a second go round and now to have a really conservative launch, I think is a good idea. All right, enough blabbering. Let's move on to the presentation here. Now, this is Hightower. Let's go over some breaking items here as of August 12th. Foxconn confirmed start of commercial production in a comment. So I have a date of July 27th. I have 51% confidence in this. The truck is under production, commercial production. Other people have said no, they're never going to do it. It's this has been confirmed now by two different sources. And I'm pretty confident that this is the truth. Also, I got a misspelling here. Meets the Endurance meets the requirements for the Biden BEV tax program. According to my read of this law, the Endurance meets every requirement for every tax break and credit and so forth. So, great news for customers, great news for Lordstown. Let's move on. Now, the comments on the presentation. I'm going to start with this, and we're going to parse this out a little bit. Engineering readiness, quality, and part availability will govern the speed of the Endurance launch. So the Endurance has already been launched. Okay, it's in production. The speed is related to these three variables. And we're going to go over in detail where we're at on these three variables. Hightower has stated that pre-production is over. Now, he has not said start of commercial production is underway. He said the next step is start of commercial production at a slow rate. And I do believe they're couching things a bit because of the SEC and the DOJ. I do believe the start of commercial production is underway. Foxconn has confirmed it. A source has confirmed it. And now he's saying it, basically, between the lines. Q4 of this year will be delivery after full final certification and homologation. Now, I just want to say, for certification and homologation, they can be in production on it is my understanding, not an engineer, financial advisor, or a lawyer, but the vehicle can be in production as certification and homologation is going on. The crash testing has been done or is underway. And in other words, I believe the Endurance is in the final form. The certification is just going through the EPA mileage and so forth, perhaps crash test validation and so forth. Homologation involves, to my understanding, making this a vehicle that can be sold around the world. Also, this involves a detailed part list for recalls and things of that nature. Moving on. Now, the Endurance. Now, this is I got a new setup here, a new location. The Endurance. This is from Hightower. The powertrain calibration is complete. And again, it's complete and it's just being certified. Okay. So, again, this is the final version of the truck. It's just going through certification. We'll get a formal range from this EPA certification. This is very important because we've got digitally controlled torque vectoring at the wheel, individual controlled motors at each wheel. This is revolutionary, and this powertrain calibration is a big deal. But as I said, I believe that this is the final version, and they can certify. They're certifying the final version. See, all pre-certification testing is done. Okay, so they're just waiting for certification. Again, the truck's in production. I believe this is the final version of the truck, and this is just red tape and paperwork. Certified crash testing will happen August 2022. So it's underway, the final step. And again, they've already crash tested this vehicle once in V1 of the Endurance. Now they're doing the second crash testing again with this rollover change. And again, this has all been done before. And this crash testing is a test of the final version. I don't believe there are going to be any changes as a result of the crash testing. It's underway. Final step. It's probably near completion. And final high temperature testing will happen August 22, underway. And that's the final test for that aspect of the vehicle. So really, they say August 22, in other words, these are probably done. Okay? And this is underway. So these are all nearing completion. Again, I believe we're in final production. If you read between the lines on this, okay? Now, at the time, new mouse. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, guys. Now, at the time of this call, Hightower says much accomplished, but still not 100% done at the time of this call. So this call was, a couple of weeks ago. So I believe they're pretty close to 100% done. They're just waiting for these certifications to come through. Now, this is what his explanation was for the slowdown in the launch process, supply chain problems. And this started way back with the PPP production. We all know about supply chain. We've been hearing about it forever. So, understandable. All open issues will be resolved before Q4 deliveries. So, in other words, Q4, we're going to have all the certifications, everything's done, everything, all open issues. So the only open issues really are these certifications and homologations, so forth. And the crash testing, which is, crash testing of the final design, just reporting the results, really. So Q4 deliveries are now in cement for the Endurance. Okay? This vehicle will be certified, homologated in commercial production and delivered in Q4 this year, which is just a couple months away. Now, the ramp up is going to take place, and there's going to be slow deliveries at first, but we're going to go over that later. The embedded software is working. So, can monitor the vehicle system via the cloud. It's working. They're still testing. This is critical to Hightower. He mentioned it specifically as being an important part. Still testing to ensure 9999 performance, okay? But everything's working. And by the way, Foxconn is building a data center for all of this, and it's all going to tie into the Foxconn system, I believe, at some point. Could be wrong on that. MISRA compliance. I got this wrong here. Rule set. Oh, sorry. Okay, they got MISRA compliance, and again, Hightower mentioned this, and he finds this to be very important. The MISRA, this is supposed to say rule set for auto-related programming, emphasis on security, so no back doors. So they're making a bulletproof cloud monitoring system. This is a fleet vehicle. This is critical to EVs, and just to show you that Hightower is big on this, and I think it's a good idea. But so we got all the systems are done. I mean, this truck is going to be delivered. It's in production now, the final version. We're just waiting for the paperwork to be done and the deliveries to start. Now, we also talked, Hightower spoke about the profitability of the Endurance. The bill of materials is more than the selling price. Okay? So that's going to be a loss. The production is going to be limited to 500 units. And the production is going to, of these 500 units, is going to, we're going to go through that. It's going to be completed next year. Now, this is what we're talking about now. Now, this is the remedy he mentioned, and this has been mentioned before, hard tooling implementation. Again, I do believe there was hard tooling for the Lordstown Endurance V1. I believe there may have been some, this is my opinion, some body changes, body and white changes to get the 5-star rollover rating, which I do believe they're going to get. I think this is the hard tooling they are speaking of. They have soft tools in place to develop this, and now for mass production, where you can stamp out millions of parts, you have to have these stamping dies redone in very hard metal, and that's what they're talking about. So, by increased scaling production and supply lines is the second issue of this. So it's all tied to how many parts they can stamp, And that stamping will provide the level of scaling of production there can be, and the supply lines follow on to supply the production. So the hard tooling is critical here. Again, I think this is the Endurance Point 2 changes, and these dies, hard dies, are quite expensive. So they've held off on covering these. Now, in the Endurance 1 and under Burns' leadership, the hard dies, I believe, were done for the Endurance 1, and this hard tooling implementation, the soft dies, were the van dies were soft, and they were going to be moving into hard tools on the van dies. So, little turnabout here, but that's the explanation for that. And after a capital raise, capital injection, whatever the debt may be, I'm going to go through Kroll's comments next in my next video. This hard tooling should get resolved at that point. It's expensive to have the hard dice done. Now, he mentioned also VAVE actions. This is a link to the website. However, this is a consulting firm. Identify high cost areas of production and eliminate them. So Sandy Munro talks about simplifying design, very much a Deming school of thought, simplifying design and creating cost savings and quality improvement through that. These guys are the same type of thing. Their emphasis is on high cost areas of production. So the point of this all is this implies ongoing efficiency improvements as Tesla does. So, in other words, the Endurance is not a static design. The line is not a static thing. These consultants and so forth, they promote ongoing improvements to the vehicle. So it's very much a Tesla model. And Hightower made a point of mentioning this, so it is important to note. So it looks to me like Hightower is really in control of this project and making sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, which you would expect from him, being the expert that he is. And this is his mention for the hard tooling. Plan to have hard tooling in place for start of commercial production, but the plan was, but cash constraints stopped this from happening. Okay, so had they been able to do that, there would be a much bigger launch. This was actually a topic first brought up, holding off on hard tooling after the going concern notice by the CFO at the time. But this was for the van at that point. So this is now for V2, Endurance Point 2. So again, cash constraints, what you expect from a pre-revenue startup. Nothing unusual. Does this imply the Endurance Point 2 changes mandate new hard dies for some components? I mentioned this earlier. The crash test ratings I have seen, and this is my information, on, on the new Endurance are 555. And that is up from 554 on the Endurance Point 1. So the rollover, according to the information I have, and you can do your own DD on this, has gone from a 4 to a 5. So this is a 555 crash test rated vehicle. This is a primo electric vehicle. As far as, well, it's what you'd expect from Hightower and the Avaji. And not to say Burns did a bad job. Everyone's standing on Steve Burns' shoulders here. And you got to remember, he actually invented, this was the first EV pickup. Okay? Steve Burns invented this whole concept. No other pickups invented. Now, he was thwarted by the evil forces of the short and distort crowd, and his efforts were slowed by that, and he eventually was, he was crucified. Okay, but the point is, they're standing on his shoulders, not to say, and I think this is obviously. I mean, I say with Lordstown Motors, 1 quarter is 4 years. Okay. that's how you got to look at the change in this. So we're already on version 2 of that. This is already the improved. No one is going to be fine. You know, they always say, well, don't buy the first version of a vehicle that comes out because there's all kind of bugs in it. Nobody's going to be buying the first version of the Endurance. They're going to be buying the second version. And all the things that are possible now that weren't possible when Burns was doing it are thrown into this, including the software and the value engineering and all this. You know, EVs are changing at the rate of change in EV manufacturing is accelerating. So this is all to the betterment of the Endurance Point 2. So anyway, let me move on here. There's a lot to cover. All right, now the timeline for scaling the Endurance to mass production. Of course, Foxconn is going to do production. Successful capital raise. SIP, the same firm that gave it the revolving stock credit line. I have received some tips that it looks like SIP has done some filings, that there is going to be a debt, a cash for stock or possibly a debt related vehicle and financial vehicle from SIP. Haven't had a chance to look into that, but that would make sense under the present market conditions. The stock offering, which was authorized, is going to be the next, in my opinion. It would make sense to wait until there's a formal announcement on the specs of the truck and the start of production and so forth to get into a stock offering. So I think the debt from SIP, it looks like, according to my sources, could be wrong, is going to be the next step in financing. And we're going to go over Kroll's stuff in the next video. And they've done a great job with cost control. I said in my previous videos, without a capital raise, they've got enough money to launch the Endurance, which I was correct about, I believe, because I believe it's in commercial production right now. And I think this debt is going to be the bridge to the next financial vehicle to finance Lordstown Motors. And just I got to keep moving on this. There are, in the joint venture agreement documents, several clauses for the internal financing of the members of that joint venture partnership. So there could be internal loans, I believe, if I've read that document correctly, as well. There's some emergency loan clauses and some other things. Not certain on that, not an accountant. You got to do your own DD. Strategic partnership also mentioned as far as scaling to big numbers of production. But in his presentation, he said, wait for Kroll comments on this next video. Recall Niavaji in my previous video with the white label manufacturing comments. So they're talking about, let me explain this, the scaling. This strategic partnership, and this is white label manufacturing of battery electric pickup trucks for major OEMs. What they're going to do is they have the Endurance skateboard and the body, 555 body. In my opinion, they're going to change the front fascia. They're going to change the taillights, maybe change the interior, rebrand it, and that will be forwarded to the OEM, and the OEM will sell that through their marketing channels. This is a brilliant move. This can scale the Endurance, phenomenally. Okay, I mean this could. I mean, just think about it. I mean, I have information. I do not know who. I mean, what the outcome of these visits were, but I have information that one major automotive OEM has been on the ground at the plant in Lordstown talking to Hightower talking to Foxconn, and now Hightower has mentioned strategic partnership. Niavaji has mentioned strategic partnership, and now he's saying Kroll also mentioned strategic partnership. I think I am 51% confident that there is going to be a strategic partner. I don't know if it's going to be this major OEM. I don't know what the outcome of those meetings were, but there's going to be some type of strategic partnership. This is going to be a big revenue generator for Lordstown Motors. They're going to get, licensing fees for each unit, however they do the agreement with this OEM. The joint venture fees, also the design and engineering fees they're going to generate for designing and engineering these white label trucks. I mean, and again, we're talking about what? I don't know. I said 5,000. I always get these numbers down. I think Lordstown has mentioned 2,000 units, 20x that. Okay, easily. If a major OEM says we want white label trucks, listen. Here's the thing. Provided we have a good technical launch, which I believe we will, which is why Niavaji and Hightower both wanted to redo the truck to ensure, I am certain, I have a sense of certainty about a successful launch. And what I'm talking about is no technical problems with the drivetrain, no technical problems with the charging or the battery system. But they're going to have the major OEMs, and you can look at all of them. They're all having trouble scaling production and designing vehicles and having successful designs. They're going to have an opportunity to market a battery electric vehicle, a battery electric pickup truck that's going to qualify for all of the incentives under the Biden plan. They don't even have to build it, and they don't even have to engineer it. All they have to do is tell Lordstown what they want it to look like, and Lordstown is going to do all of that, and they're going to design it all, and they're going to engineer it all, and then Foxconn is going to build it, and they're going to deliver it to the OEM. The OEM is going to forward it to their dealers or however they want to sell it. The potential here, I mean, I'm not even going to get into it. Plus, this is the only solid rear axle, real work oriented, towing oriented pickup truck. We do not have the final specs. The original range that was mentioned, I think there's going to be different ranges for different applications. Fleet applications have lower mileage requirements than a retail model. But anyway, the opportunity based on these strategic partnerships, I mean, having white label, I mean, this is iPhone stuff, okay? This is iPhone level. Anyway, parts supply line. We're going to move on. Parts supply line, not a problem. So they have the new Ford executive in there, the PhD, and she is a supply chain expert. And Hightower says we are ready for March 23 full production ramp start. So he's given a date, March 2023 as full production ramp. We got these strategic partnerships. We got the launch. I mean, there is so much going on here. There's so many potential revenue streams. I have down here, so they have solved the supply line problem. It's not an issue. Interestingly, the Endurance has only 1,500 parts. Hub motors eliminate many supply issues. The average internal combustion engine car has 30,000 parts. Look at the difference there. Ramp. We're going to start the ramp Q3 this year. Majority of the first 500 vehicles will be built in the first part of 2023. So they are starting the ramp in this year. He kind of fudged this figure It didn't say exactly, majority first part of 2023. So, but we can take this as, you know, the latest is going to be it's going to start is 2023. Now, talking about ramping, I've seen some comments of people saying, "Oh, it's taking too long. Why is it taking so long to ramp this up?" You got to understand, Tesla, others, it's common to have a 1 year ramp to full production. Uh, Even longer at times. You know, the Model 3, the Model Y, all of these, uh, there is a ramp that has to take place. And you can look at Berlin or you can look at Texas and you can see how Tesla, they start running it. Elon Musk talked about this. They have to get the timing of the line right so the cars go through the paint shop properly so that the paint dries, it doesn't get dust on it. These types of minute, seconds, literally, adjustments to the speed of the line and so forth. These all have to be worked out, in real time as production is ongoing. This is why there's a ramp to full production. The reason for the slower ramp given by, in the case of the Endurance, and again, March 2023, we're going to have no problem with supply line. But the reason for the slower ramp here is they want to build complete vehicles. They do not want to retrofit for missing parts after the build. So, as Hightower mentioned previously, the slow rate of the march to production is because of supply line. The slow ramp, again, in 2022 is winding up the supply line by 2023 in March. All of these issues are going to be solved according to Hightower. Now, marketing, one of the few full-size battery electric pickups in the market now, and for several years. And, what if you read in between the lines on this, if you look at the Rivian is an SUV. It's not a pickup truck. Even the Ford Lightning, with the weight, with the braking problems, with the internal scale, if you overload that thing, it's going to register and you're going to void the warranty on the drivetrain. It's my opinion. So the only real work, the real pickup truck that's available right now is the Endurance. And the reason it's available is because of the hub motors allow the proper design of a real truck. These other drivetrains do not allow it. Okay? It's fundamental. They have a fleet-only focus. Lordstown does. For their launch, their marketing of their launch, several fleet management companies and commercial fleets. So they're doing both fleet management companies, which lease fleet vehicles out, and commercial fleets, which buy the vehicles themselves. Uh, in California, Michigan, and Ohio are targets for the first batch of trucks. I had mentioned in one of my previous videos that there is a fleet company in Ohio. They already have a thing on their website for people to reserve an Endurance. This is one of them. So they're having a small release. They're not. I'm sure there's not going to be any press releases on this because they know these guys are big time players. They know about the short and distort crowd. They're not going to give them an opportunity to come in on this launch of this vehicle. And obviously, there's so many people that do not want to see this competition come to the market. Anyway, there's a lot of sharp elbows out there, people, and they do not play fair. Anyway, so this fleet-only focus also would dovetail nicely with their white label manufacturing plan. In other words, Lordstown can say, we'll do your white label manufacturing, and you can market these trucks, to consumers, and we're not going to compete with you. We're going to be a fleet-only focused. The Endurance is only going to be sold to fleet customers. that makes perfect sense to me. Whether that will happen, I mean, all the pieces come together for this white label manufacturing. And again, the iPhone model. I mean, how many iPhones were made last year? Now, the Foxconn MED joint venture. The new EV programs for LMC fleet customers based on the AMIH platform, but not exclusively. Okay? There are new programs, but not exclusively in the MAH program. It's implied that they may be others other than the MAH program. Potentially new EV programs for other OEMs. And again, this white label manufacturing, it looks like a done deal to me. So the joint venture is also very active. And this is also a big revenue stream because there are consulting fees and all kind of other fees generated through this joint venture on these vehicles, and royalties paid when the endurance skateboard is used and so forth. So this is all in the works. North American production. Now he's gone through this very carefully. So we have the endurance. We have the white label manufacturing. Now we have new EV programs under the MED joint venture. Look at all this stuff that's going on. I mean, this company's going to explode in one day. Potentially new EV programs from other OEMs. Again, the white label. North American production of these vehicles will happen at the Ohio plant. So all of the vehicles, the endurance vehicles, the white label vehicles, the MIH joint venture, MED vehicles will be built at the Ohio plant, and LMC, Lordstown Motors territory for all the output of all these vehicles is North America. Perfect. The rest of the world is Foxconn's territory. And they're going to build the vehicles for the rest of the world, these three groups of vehicles, at Foxconn plants around the globe. Foxconn is, partnered, and they have all kind of stuff going on. I mean, it's so complex you can't even get your mind around it. But Foxconn has the global market, and Lordstown has the North American market. Now, again, royalties, I'm sure, are part of all these designs, and these vehicles that are sold globally are also, in my opinion, do your own DD, going to generate revenue to Lordstown Motors in the form of royalties or per unit payment or whatever the agreement may be. So North American production, it's all going to be self-contained. And again, this is going to ensure that any future tax breaks and incentives on BEVs, hey, we got a North American producer here. Perfect. All right. And again, so we've got North America, Lordstown, rest of the world, Foxconn. Hightower in Taiwan for 2 weeks. He just got back. How to integrate LMC with the Foxconn EV ecosystem, which is MIH and so forth. The LMC contribution is BEV concept through product launch. This is what LMC contributes to the joint venture. Very much like Apple designing and engineering the iPhone. Okay, so Lordstown is going to take this BEV all the way from the concept, design, engineering, certification, homologation. They're going to develop the iPhone. Let's put iPhone in place of endurance. They're going to engineer, spec out the iPhone. Foxconn's going to build it. And that's the LMC contribution to the joint venture for all vehicles developed. Okay? The first vehicle developed through MEDJV will be announced in months. So this is imminent. Okay? I am, I go over this in the next section. We could have the van, we could have the Model C. So we have the Endurance, we have the white label projects, and now we have the MIH MED projects. There are a lot of revenue streams coming as soon as they ramp up this manufacturing of this endurance skateboard. Uh, and Hightower closed with mentions of many new executive staff hires and marketing sales. So they have, this is the Endurance point two, and this is Lordstown Motors point two as well. They've made, Hightower is both the CEO of Lordstown and the MED joint venture. And all of these people are, this is kind of like SpaceX and Tesla. Okay. And I'm sure all these people are going to work for both interests, but they have put together a really hotshot top team there. Niavaji, I have a lot of confidence in these guys. I don't think these analysts are asleep on this company. Anyway, very exciting call. I have, this is a summary. Right now, money is the number one constraint on profitability, the scalability of the thing. Supply chain is the number one constraint on present production. Again, this involves the hard dies, okay, and being able to make thousands of parts instead of hundreds of parts. This involves the problems they're having right now, which Hightower is assured that March 2023 they will not have supply chain problems. I have start of commercial production of the Endurance Point 2 is underway. Okay? And there's some naysayers out there saying they don't have the money to start, they're going to go bankrupt, they're going to listen. I do not believe Foxconn is going to allow the failure of their joint venture partner. And there's a lot of other factors here. Niavaji is not going to allow this company to fail. Hightower is not going to allow this company to fail. Anyway, that's my personal attention, personal view of the whole thing. Final testing and certification is underway now and may even be complete. Okay? So the Endurance is definitely going to launch in Q4. It's going to be sold in Q4. I am 51% certain. When I say 51%, that's pretty much 100%. Anyway, money is the number one constraint right now on scaling production of this first batch. And we also, the supply chain. But basically what I'm saying here is money, money, money for the big mass production start. Anyway, these, in my opinion, this is all positive news. Very positive presentation by Hightower. Totally overlooked. No analyst questions. No coverage on the street. Talking about the profit, which is exciting, and the cost cutting. No one has mentioned these. This is such a complex story that it's very hard to report on. And these guys, I don't think they have the IQ to cover this, these analysts. Strategic partnership with an OEM. I'm not going to say who I know has visited the plant, and I'm sure there's been others that I don't know have visited the plant, is also critical to scaling the Endurance to mass production and profits, creating revenue, in my opinion. So this strategic partnership is mentioned by CEO, Chairman of the Board, CEO, and CFO. This white label manufacturing, I believe, is going to be implemented as soon as they start. It's probably underway right now. Would require production deliveries of current run for proof of concept. So I think before any OEM is going to really bite on this, and they're probably negotiating right now, and they're probably all saying, look, you launch the truck, show us you can build a truck, show us the truck is technically sound, and the deal is done. And I think that's exactly what is happening right now. And I think they are gearing up all of this for March 2023, in my opinion. And there is so much going on here. Limited sales to fleet customers of the first units in Q4 2022. Production, first run delivery completed first part of 2023. So we're looking at big milestones being met in 2022. 2023 is going to be the launch really of Lordstown Motors and the start of something really big. Again, March 23 mentioned. So maybe that's when the big announcements are going to take place. Anyway, that's basically the comments. There's a lot going on here, guys. You can scale through this. You can go on your phone and you can read this. This is yet another bombshell. First MED joint venture vehicle to be announced in months. Okay? Months. So, Endurance, White Label, MIH joint venture. Looks like it will be a fleet vehicle. This is what he indicated. In my opinion, I don't know. The LMC, Lordstown Motors high top van, which I have a spy photo of in my last video. That's last mile delivery van. Superior design to Rivian. That's what I think it's going to be. Could be the Model C for MIH. Okay? That is the crossover. Which, by the way, Lordstown could sell to their fleet customers. All of this first, by the way, this is going to be announced in months. Now, the important thing about the joint venture vehicles, according to my read, not a lawyer, the start of this joint venture vehicle development should generate revenue for LMC design and engineering services. Okay? And this is another source of revenue for Lordstown. And so, I mean, there's a revenue source there. We got the SIP. We got the potential stock offering. And I'm going to go over Kroll's comments as well. But this is a complex puzzle that's being put together by Niavaji and Hightower, and they've got 25 balls in the air, and they're juggling them. And let me tell you, they're all going to land in a pot of money, in my opinion. Anyway, this is the Lordstown Endurance. This is the most recent version. Great looking truck. Hightower's version of the truck, Endurance Point 2. Standing on Steve Burns' shoulders. Great looking truck. 4-wheel drive, BEV. Torque vectoring, independent traction control. Fantastic. This is Batman's Endurance. Tell me that doesn't look great. You want to lift it 4x4? Fantastic. Anyway, what a great looking truck. 600 horsepower, 4-wheel drive, torque vectoring. Wow. Okay. Meets all of the government rebate, so forth, program requirements. Wow. Okay. This is the latest Lordstown validation water handling video. I'm going to click on that in a minute. I'm going to try to open this link. Well, let's see. Let me do this in another section of this video. I'm going to show these two clips. All right. This is MXUX. I hope you liked the presentation. This is all extremely bullish, in my opinion, for Lordstown. There's almost too much to mention. I would recommend that you take this video and just stop it and blow it up on your phone and read everything. It's breathtaking. I mean, these guys are really working over there in Lordstown. All right, thanks for watching MXUX.